Welcome, thrill seekers, to a world of spine-chilling tales and hair-raising adventures. Gather around for a frightful journey into the unknown as we delve deep into the realm of scary stories. Buckle up, hold on tight, and get ready to experience a rush of terror like never before. As a young detective, I had seen my fair share of gruesome crimes, but nothing could have prepared me for what I would uncover in the killer's lair. It was the kind of place that nightmares were made of, a twisted, dark realm that seemed to have been designed specifically to inflict pain and suffering. It all began with a missing persons case. A young woman had disappeared from her apartment, and there was no sign of a struggle or forced entry. The only clue was a strange symbol that had been scrawled on the wall in what appeared to be blood. As we dug deeper into the investigation, we discovered that the symbol was the calling card of a notorious serial killer who had been terrorizing the city for years. He was known for his sadistic methods and his obsession with the occult. Despite our best efforts, the killer remained elusive, always seeming to be one step ahead of us. But then, a stroke of luck, we stumbled upon an abandoned warehouse that we believed might be the killer's lair. We gathered our team and prepared to enter the building, not knowing what horrors awaited us inside. As we made our way through the dimly lit corridors, the air thick with the stench of decay, we knew that we were in a dangerous place. And then, we found it, the killer's lair. It was a nightmare come to life, a twisted, macabre realm that defied description. The walls were lined with shelves and cabinets, filled with jars of preserved organs, bones, and other gruesome artifacts. There were torture devices scattered throughout the room, including an Iron Maiden, a rack, and a wheel, all stained with blood. The floor was slick with a dark, sticky substance that we knew was blood. But the most disturbing thing about the lair was the altar that stood at the center of the room. It was covered in a layer of dried blood, and on it lay the mutilated body of the missing woman. As we surveyed the scene, a chill ran down my spine. It was clear that we were dealing with a killer who was not only highly intelligent and methodical, but also completely unhinged. But the horrors of the lair were just beginning. As we continued to search the room, we discovered a hidden door that led to a series of underground tunnels. It was like something out of a horror movie, the labyrinth of twisting corridors and dank, oppressive chambers. We knew that we had to explore the tunnels, despite the danger that awaited us. We formed a plan, splitting into teams and moving cautiously through the winding passages. But the killer was ready for us. One by one, our team members began to disappear, snatched by unseen hands and dragged into the darkness. It was clear that the killer was still at large, and that we were in grave danger. And then, I found myself alone in the tunnels, with no one but the killer for company. I could feel his presence, could sense his eyes watching me from the shadows. I moved as quietly as I could, my heart pounding with fear. But despite my best efforts, the killer found me. He emerged from the darkness, his face twisted into a grotesque mask of madness. We fought, the killer and I, in a brutal, bloody struggle. But in the end, it was I who emerged victorious, standing over the killer's lifeless body. As I emerged from the tunnels, battered and bloody, I knew that I had been forever changed by what I had experienced. The horrors of the killer's lair had left their mark on me, and I knew that I would never be the same. But even as I grappled with my own trauma, I knew that there would always be other killers out there, waiting to be caught. And I was determined to be there to stop them. The investigation into the serial killer's lair had been a turning point for me, both personally and professionally. It had shown me the darkest depths of humanity, but it had also strengthened my resolve to fight against those who would do harm. Over the years, I had many more cases, each one more harrowing than the last. But I always held on to the memory of that lair, using it as a reminder of why I did what I did. And then, one day, I received a call that would change everything. There had been a string of murders in a small town in the Midwest, and the local authorities were at a loss for what to do. I packed my bags and headed to the town, ready to take on whatever horrors awaited me. But when I arrived, I found that this case was unlike any other I had ever faced. The murders had been brutal and gruesome, the work of a sadistic killer who seemed to take pleasure in his victims' pain. But there was something else too, something that I couldn't quite put my finger on. As I delved deeper into the investigation, I discovered that the killer had been leaving strange symbols at each crime scene. They were different from the symbol that had been found in the serial killer's lair, but there was something about them that felt familiar. And then, it hit me, the symbols were the same ones that had been carved into the walls of the tunnels in the lair. It was as if the killer had been there, had somehow been influenced by the darkness that had taken root in that place. The realization sent shivers down my spine. I knew that I was dealing with something beyond my understanding, something that could not be explained away by conventional means. As the body count continued to rise, I found myself becoming more and more desperate. I knew that I had to find a way to stop the killer, but I didn't know how. And then, one night, I received a message. It was from the killer, taunting me, daring me to come after him. He knew that I was getting close, and he wanted to play a game of cat and mouse. I knew that it was a trap, but I couldn't resist. I had to take the bait, had to confront the killer once and for all. I made my way to an abandoned building on the outskirts of town, where the killer was waiting for me. As I stepped inside, I could feel his eyes on me, could sense his presence in the shadows. The game was on. The killer had set up a series of traps and obstacles throughout the building, forcing me to navigate through a maze of rooms and corridors. I knew that every step could be my last, that the killer was waiting for me at every turn. But as I moved deeper into the building, something began to feel off. It was as if the building itself was alive, twisting and shifting around me. I could hear strange whispers in my ear, could feel cold, ghostly fingers brushing against my skin. I pressed on, determined to finish what I had started. And then, I found myself in a room that felt familiar, a room that reminded me of the killer's lair. It was the altar room, the same one where I had fought and killed the serial killer all those years ago. But now, it was different. The walls were pulsing and shifting, the air thick with a sickly, otherworldly energy. And then, I saw him. The killer emerged from the shadows, his face twisted into a grotesque mask of madness. We fought, the killer and I, in a brutal, bloody struggle. But this time, it was different. This time, the killer seemed to have some kind of supernatural strength, something beyond human ability. Continued on the channel.